I am the lost true heiress, who after many twists and turns, was finally raised as the daughter of a mafia boss. I grew up sleeping with a gun under my pillow, while Linda, who took my original identity, slept with a stuffed doll in her arms. I could think of 800 ways to get rid of Linda without anyone noticing, even with my knees. But on my first night at the Lincoln family, Linda ran into my room and placed her doll between us. "Baby, can't you sleep? Don't be afraid, I'll stay with you." My body stiffened, the gun under my pillow feeling like a joke. I only agreed to return to the Lincoln family with the idea of outsmarting the vicious fake heiress and my brainless, biased biological parents, while incidentally swallowing the Lincoln family fortune whole to expand the empire of my daughter-obsessed mafia father. That's how novels are written. The naive and sweet biological daughter returns home only to be relentlessly schemed against and ostracized. With the entire family mindlessly favoring the fake heiress, the inevitable ending is always the biological daughter contracting a terminal illness, prompting the suddenly enlightened family to realize their mistakes and come weeping at her grave in regret. Reading just one of these stories can give you heartache for half an hour. If this kind of plot happened to me, the novel wouldn't make it past the first 3 lines. The fake heiress starts causing trouble with the whole family backing her up. But the next second, I personally send this family of 24K pure fools to reunite in the underworld. The end, happy ending. I'd find it annoying if such people cried at my grave. Of course, only by personally scattering their ashes would I feel satisfied. So when the couple claiming to be my biological parents appeared before me with tears in their eyes, I was only briefly surprised before eagerly running back to pack my bags. Until I hurriedly boarded the Lincoln family's Phantom with 2 large suitcases in tow. The Lincoln couple still hadn't quite grasped what was happening. Meanwhile, I expertly rolled down the window, leaned out, and waved at my dumbfounded bodyguard. "Uncle Bob, tell my dad, no, I mean my dear adoptive father, that I won't be home for dinner tonight." After delivering my message, I clung to the car window and turned to look at the Lincoln couple. "Hurry up, Mom and Dad. Aren't you here to take me home?" So overjoyed they could hardly resist setting off 2 strings of firecrackers on the spot. Only after my reminder did Mr. and Mrs. Lincoln hastily get into the car. It didn't seem like they were picking up their long-lost biological daughter to bring her home. It's as if a weak woman like me, who couldn't even hurt a fly, had kidnapped a wealthy couple. The car drove all the way to the entrance of the Lincoln family mansion before my biological parents finally rebooted from their CPU-overloaded state. "Sweetheart," my biological father tentatively called out to me. Yes, not a term of endearment. "Baby Smith. Never change my name, no matter where I go." It's obvious what kind of education a father who spends his days fighting and killing could have. He thought I was a treasure bestowed upon him by heaven, and with a grand gesture, he registered me under the name, Baby Smith. The greatest truths are the simplest. Mr. Lincoln, being highly educated, clearly couldn't quite grasp my father's minimalist aesthetic. He's a big-shot tycoon, yet when he calls my name, his voice lacks confidence, sounding awkward and distant. I straightened my back, turned to him with an 8-tooth smile. "What's up, Dad?" It's coming, I think. He must be about to brief me on the matter of the fake heiress, Linda, before we enter. What will he say? "Linda is about your age. This was our oversight and has nothing to do with her. From now on, you'll be like sisters, so get along well." Or the even more hypocritical, "Linda has always wanted an older sister, now it's perfect. You two can keep each other company." I was fully prepared to counter whatever came my way. Mr. Lincoln seemed even more nervous than I was, exchanging several glances with Mrs. Lincoln before finally mustering the courage to speak again. "Sweetheart. You've suffered all these years outside. It's our fault as parents. We didn't take good care of you." The unexpected words made me pause for a moment. In novels, not a single pair of parents who found their long-lost daughter ever thought to apologize to their child. "We'll definitely make it up to you. You know our family has some money. This afternoon, I'll take you to the company and transfer 50% of the shares to you." I felt as if struck by lightning. The company is just handed over like this. Then what about my carefully planned drama of wits and courage to fight for the family fortune? My gangster father had been worrying himself bald over the business war with the Lincoln family recently, and just as he went on a business trip, I ended up taking the Lincoln family under my wing. I might have to change my last name. I don't know if the old man would praise me for being ambitious or scold me for being ungrateful. As I was pondering, Mr. Lincoln and Mrs. Lincoln took turns stealing the spotlight, and then my birth mother took my hand. "Sweetheart, I straightened my back again, looking at her with eager anticipation. If my biological father is unreliable, surely my biological mother can give me some plot to enjoy, right? In novels, it's usually the biological mother who leads the way in favoring the fake heiress. Linda is at home right now waiting to welcome you. Over the past few days, she's been even more eager to meet you than mom and dad. This opening line seems promising, so I perk up and prick up my ears. Our family can afford to raise one more child. Mom and dad love you, and they also love Linda. I can't lie about that. I press my lips together and lower my gaze slightly, using a docile expression to mask the mockery in my eyes. Such high-sounding words. Aren't they just trying to have their cake and eat it too? Hinting that I shouldn't be petty and should accept Linda with open arms. What kind of love is it to say you love both me and her, forcing me to see the person who stole over a decade of my life every single day? If you're truly so noble, you could just give her an apartment and let her move out. That would satisfy your motherly affection while saving me the trouble. But don't worry, your father and I have already transferred a property to Linda. She's moving out tomorrow. Just as I was stewing in frustration, Mrs. Lincoln suddenly shifted the conversation as if she could read my mind. One sentence froze me in place for 10 seconds. I suddenly raised my eyes and stared at her, filled with disbelief. This plot isn't right. Why is my real and fake heiress script completely different from the ones I've read before? How am I supposed to fight back when the fake heiress was sent away right from the start? I still have a gun in my suitcase. Sweetheart, are you still upset? Mrs. Lincoln clearly misread my expression and nervously probed. The house we gave Linda is very far from home. I promise you won't see her. She just wants to see you in person to apologize. Mr. Lincoln also grew nervous, rubbing his hands together anxiously. If you really don't want to see her, should we send her away first and then come back for you? Mr. Lincoln acted with remarkable efficiency, already opening the car door to go pack Linda up and send her away. No need. I quickly stopped him. It's good to meet her. She's still a child, and since she's already here, the more the merrier. After much persuasion, I finally managed to talk Mr. Lincoln out of it, securing my chance to confront the fake heiress face to face. Mr. and Mrs. Lincoln each took one of my hands and led me inside. Linda, sitting on the living room sofa, had clearly been waiting anxiously for a long time. As soon as the door opened, she immediately stood up and hurried over. Surprisingly, she wasn't dressed to outshine me as I had imagined, just an ordinary set of home pajamas, a complete Winnie the Pooh t-shirt and pants set. The front of the t-shirt was unconsciously crumpled by her after being nervously tugged at for half the day. Hello, baby, you must be tired from the journey. Baby, she greeted me first, calling me baby loudly enough to shake heaven and earth. I rarely feel embarrassed because of my name, but this time I was so mortified I wanted to cover her mouth. Linda remained completely oblivious, flashing her little white teeth at me with a grin. Throughout the entire dinner, she clung to my side, serving me dishes and peeling shrimp for me, constantly asking what I liked to eat. Unaccustomed to such intimacy, I held my bowl and subtly inched away from her as discreetly as possible. Linda cluelessly followed me as I shifted my position. I glared at her, yet she seemed completely oblivious to the threat in my gaze, lifting her fresh-faced, makeup-free little face to beam at me with an expression of naive sweetness. All the strategies I'd prepared for dealing with a green tea personality went unused. Throughout the entire meal, I was solely focused on putting distance between us. I fled, she chased. I couldn't escape even with wings. Just as we were both about to move beyond the end of the dining table, Mr. Lincoln finally couldn't stand it anymore and coughed heavily. All right, I see you've both eaten enough. Our dear must be tired after just coming back. Let's all go upstairs early to wash up and rest. I felt as if granted amnesty, put down my bowl, briefly said my goodbyes, and dashed upstairs. Something's off, really off. Not a single one of this family of three is playing by the rules, making me, with my minute-by-minute calculations and 800 schemes per second, look like a complete fool. Defeated, I finished washing up and lay down, ready to treat today's events as just a dream. Just before bedtime, my phone rang. It was a call from the bodyguard. Miss, we've stationed personnel around the Lincoln family's vicinity, ready to protect your safety 24/7. I knew my father wouldn't let me go with someone else so easily. He definitely had a backup plan. But I imagined the highly trained mercenary bodyguard standing ready all around me. Then I recalled Linda's naive and sweet smiling face. Instantly, I felt a sense of powerlessness. like punching cotton. Get out, all of you. I irritably hung up the phone and burrowed under the covers, trying to numb the day's frustrations with sleep. Just as I was finally drifting into a hazy slumber, I suddenly heard knocking at the door. When I didn't respond, the knocking stopped briefly before the sound of my doorknob turning abruptly began. I tensed under the blankets, ears pricked in alarm, my hand instinctively reaching for the gun beneath my pillow. This is a habit my father instilled in me since childhood. When I was little, I told him I was scared to sleep alone and wanted him to buy me a stuffed toy like the ones in TV shows. Without hesitation, Dad handed me a sleek pistol instead. Companionship won't solve fear. Having the ability to protect yourself is what truly matters. I think Dad was right. But as I went upstairs, I accidentally caught a glimpse of Linda's open door. With dolls of all sizes piled up in her room, it's not that I wasn't envious. In the blink of an eye, that person had already entered the room and quietly climbed onto my bed. My whole body tensed up, and my fingers instinctively tightened on the trigger. But then, something furry was tucked into the blanket. The empty space behind me suddenly felt full and warm. Sweetheart, are you asleep? Linda called me in a whisper. What? I should hate her. Sneaking into my room in the middle of the night without permission, my first reaction should have been alertness, suspicion that she might have come up with some new trick to deal with me, but I uncontrollably loosened my grip on the gun. Linda was someone who gave me no sense of danger at all. Hearing me speak, Linda visibly relaxed. She climbed onto the bed, stuffed the half-person-sized Winnie the Pooh plush she had brought between us again, took half of my blanket, and lay down. I bet you can't sleep. Don't be afraid. I'm here to keep you company. Linda had no sense of boundaries at all, stretching her arm past the Winnie the Pooh plushie, barely reaching my back, and gave it a light pat as if to comfort me. I didn't turn around, my limbs stiff. Having slept alone since childhood, I wasn't used to such physical contact, but not entirely opposed. Linda seemed completely unaware of my aloofness and distance, quietly talking to me as if to herself. She told me her parents were wonderful people, shared their likes and dislikes, and revealed where she had secretly buried little treasures in the garden. She was helping me integrate into this unfamiliar home. I felt drowsy and vaguely aware of the matter. Sweetie, did you remember everything? Linda kept repeating. You have to remember. Okay, I'm leaving tomorrow, and if you don't remember, no one will teach you. But it's okay, Mom and Dad are very patient people, they'll teach you. She murmured to herself. There was no resentment in her tone at being sent away, nor did she conceal her love for her parents. Everything was different from what I had imagined. Don't leave, I need a sidekick for school. With the last shred of my conscious mind, I managed to blurt out this sentence. Then I buried my head under the blanket, cutting off Linda's surprised and delighted string of really, as I completely drifted off to sleep. The next morning, when my Lincoln family parents heard my decision, they exchanged bewildered looks for quite a while. Without the slightest hint of anticipated joy, they solemnly and cautiously asked me repeatedly if I had truly thought it through. It was clear that their earlier behavior wasn't an act. They had even packed Linda's luggage. I nodded repeatedly to assure them that I was completely sober-minded. Thank goodness I had to go to school with Linda today, otherwise, their interrogation might have lasted the entire day before they'd believe me. Since that's the case, you two must get along well. Call me if anything happens, Mrs. Lincoln reminded anxiously. Linda, take good care of the little one. It's her first day at school. Make sure no one bullies her. Understand? Don't worry, Mom. Linda nodded while swiftly packing her school bag like a spinning top. School bag, water bottle, nap time pillow. Linda finished packing her things and then turned her attention to mine. Sweetie, do you want to bring some snacks? Should we have Auntie deliver lunch or will you eat at the cafeteria? What if you don't like the food there? She bombarded me with questions, making my ears ache. I grabbed my backpack, slung it over my shoulder, and dashed out the door. No, none of it. Stop worrying about me, damn it. Living 17 years without a mother. And suddenly having two, this is what it feels like, so noisy. Only when I actually got to school did I realize I'd mistaken the battlefield. The Lincoln family had no scheming or rivalry, but my pent-up energy and cunning found their playground at school. For no other reason, Linda, this soft and vulnerable pushover, has been subjected to PUA for a whole year without even realizing it. On the way to school, she excitedly described her best friend, Rita, to me. Rita is really nice. When I was bullied by others before, she was the first to stand up and protect me. When everyone ignored me, she was the only one who still treated me as her best friend. She even gave me gifts. Look, this hair clip. and this bow tie, they're all from her. She wears the same ones too, and she said we'll be best friends forever. She excitedly showed me the hair clip on her head and the bow tie on her chest, her eyes sparkling. It was clear she really liked this so-called friend. Her endless chatter had worn my ears out, but thankfully the car had already stopped at the school gate, putting an end to her incessant babbling. As soon as we entered the classroom, she ignored my impatient protests and dragged me over to introduce me to her best friend. Sweetie, you're definitely going to be friends with Rita too. I tried to shake her off irritably, but she had already spotted Rita sitting by the window and excitedly waved at her. Rita. The girl raised her head at the call. She had an innocent, doll-like face with neat bangs resting obediently on her forehead, the very picture of a well-behaved, model student. Upon seeing Linda, she curved her lips into a sweet smile. I couldn't find any obvious flaws, yet I instinctively frowned after just a quick glance. There was something oddly unsettling about her smile. Her expression was gentle, but the warmth didn't reach her eyes. Their relationship didn't seem as close as Linda had claimed. Linda didn't notice anything amiss and immediately pulled me along as she ran over. Linda, who is this? As the distance closed, Rita finally noticed me standing beside her. She looked me over while asking Linda. I've always hated being stared at, and my frown deepened. Instinctively, I took an immediate dislike to this Rita. Baby, this is Rita, the best friend I've told you about. Rita, this is Baby. Among the three of us, only Linda remained cheerful, eagerly introducing us to each other. Bah. Baby, who's Baby? A crack appeared in Rita's delicate mask of composure at the overly intimate term of endearment. No, not that kind of baby. Linda frantically waved her hands but stumbled over her words, unable to explain clearly. Baby Smith. I felt mentally exhausted listening to her and impatiently cut her off, introducing myself directly. Yes, her name is literally Baby. Linda finally managed to explain clearly, breathing a sigh of relief. Baby is the Lincoln family's real daughter. She just returned yesterday and will be attending school with us from now on. She didn't hide anything at all, once again shattering my stereotype that fake heiresses always deliberately conceal the true heiress's identity. This fake heiress is clearly a bit dim-witted. I glanced at Linda's excited face and made my final judgment in my heart. But while Linda's words and actions are open and honest, others might not be as innocent and kind as she believes. So you're saying she's the real heiress of the Lincoln family? Rita looked surprised, glanced at me, then stared straight at Linda. Then who are you? A hint of malicious mockery flashed in her eyes. I saw it clearly and narrowed my eyes slightly. Linda was caught off guard by the question, her face flushing red with embarrassment. She wasn't a blood-related daughter of the Lincoln family, and her real parents still hadn't been found. She simply couldn't provide a standard answer to this question. Rita was clearly trying to embarrass her. It's almost time for class, and the classroom is gradually filling up with people. Many curious onlookers are peeking and craning their necks in this direction. Linda's embarrassed and awkward demeanor was fully noticed by Rita. The smile on her lips grew increasingly peculiar and unabashedly malicious. Then what should I call you from now on? I can't keep calling you Linda, right? You don't even have the surname Lin. Rita's voice was sweet, laced with innocent confusion, yet all I found was irritation. Every word grated on my nerves, making me restless with the urge to lash out. Linda hung her head in shame, looking as if she might burst into tears any second. She's my sister, I said flatly. Linda looked up at me in a daze, following the sound of my voice. Her red, rabbit-like eyes were brimming with unshed tears. This useless softy, admitting she's my sister is practically an embarrassment to our gangster father. I sighed inwardly, grabbing her wrist and pulling her behind me, meeting Rita's stunned gaze. Linda is my sister, and her last name is Lin. Do you have any other questions? My voice wasn't loud, but the classroom was silent, and everyone heard it clearly. I could distinctly feel those prying, gossipy glances being withdrawn one by one. Only the boy sitting behind Rita kept staring at me relentlessly, his gaze carrying a faint hint of amusement. I glared back at him irritably. Keep looking and I'll gouge your eyes out. The boy didn't react much to that, just raised an eyebrow and smiled slightly in surprise. Rita, however, pursed her lips in displeasure. My hand slipped effortlessly into my pocket, subtly playing with the butterfly knife inside. My patience is limited. My old man taught me from a young age not to waste words on people who aren't worth it. Right now, I stared calmly at Rita, mentally calculating step by step how I'd cut out her tongue if this clueless woman dared to speak out of turn again, without dragging the Lincoln family into it. TCH, not so easy to pull off. Might even have to trouble the old man to clean up the mess. Rita's face-changing skills are top-notch. I was just kidding, Linda is my best friend. After all, in the blink of an eye, she switched to another expression, smiling as she took Linda's hand, then turned to grab mine. I kept a cold expression and showed no intention of taking my hand out of my pocket. She didn't seem embarrassed at all, still smiling with her dimples showing. Oh dear, your sister is mad at me, Linda. Quick, help me explain. Bah. Linda started to call my name. Shut up and go sit down for class. I cut her off swiftly before turning to leave. If this naive sweetheart really opened her mouth to speak up for Rita, I couldn't guarantee I wouldn't end up hitting someone. I was in a bad mood with Linda all day. Linda could tell I was upset about Rita, but she didn't know why I was angry. She could only cautiously hover around me, from school all the way until we got home in the evening. Are the little princesses back, Mrs. Lincoln greeted them with a warm smile. How was your day? Did the little one settle in well? What would you like for dinner tonight? Mom will ask Auntie Wong to prepare it. What would you like to eat, sweetheart? Linda quickly seized the opportunity to chime in. Auntie Wong makes amazing sweet and sour mandarin fish. Her baked pumpkin with eggs and tomato braised tofu are also really delicious. I'm not eating, I'm full of anger. I suppressed my drool to maintain my aloof persona. Mrs. Lincoln looked blankly at Linda, then at me. She couldn't understand how her two daughters, who had been on good terms when leaving home in the morning, had ended up arguing by evening. Despite the quarreling, when dinner time came, I still sat properly at the dining table. It's just because I don't want to worry the elders. It's definitely not because the food smells too good. Linda ignored my resistance and sat close to me, continuously putting food in my bowl. The tenderest part of the fish eye and the very center of the pumpkin-baked eggs were all snatched by her and placed in my bowl. Mr. Lincoln tried picking up his chopstick several times but kept missing, glancing at his usually well-behaved and sensible little daughter, then at the mountain of food piled in my bowl. He reluctantly set down his chopsticks. What's going on? When Mr. Lincoln spoke, Linda first looked at me. I remained silent as tacit approval. And only then did she turn to explain to Mr. Lincoln what had happened. Mr. Lincoln was speechless. Although vaguely sensing his precarious position in the family hierarchy, Mr. Lincoln still pondered for a moment after hearing the whole story. Rita, right, I've had a few business dealings with her father. Because he wasn't entirely honest, we stopped collaborating later. While we shouldn't hastily judge Rita's character based on her father's behavior, Linda, you can take this as a reference. After all, it's better to be safe than sorry. Look, listen, heaven above, distinguish the loyal from the treacherous. I stuffed a big bite of fish into my mouth and shot Linda, that ungrateful wretch, a dirty look. Feeling guilty, Linda served me another large helping of fish. My unjust charges were finally cleared, and I was just about to indulge in a hearty meal when Mr. Lincoln's casual remark nearly made me choke. Speaking of which, I almost fell into the Chin family's trap back then. It was Keith Smith who gave me a heads up. I sat bolt upright with a snap. Keith Smith, my uncultured old man. I almost forgot about him, but Mr. Lincoln said Dad helped him. Since when was my old man so kind? Wasn't he losing sleep day and night trying to swallow up the Lincoln family's business? So this Keith Smith seems like a decent guy, huh? I desperately searched for the right words, but no matter what, I couldn't bring myself to lie and call it kindness. That was the only time. That old bastard was scheming to take over our company. But luckily your old man here had enough experience to stop him. Mr. Lincoln was quite indignant, completely forgetting about Rita as he opened the floodgates of his grievances. I don't like making enemies. In business, more friends mean more opportunities. But this Keith Smith was as stubborn as a mule, dead set on opposing me at every turn. I got so mad I even looked into his background, but couldn't find anything useful. Of course you couldn't find anything. If a mere businessman could easily uncover Dad's background, he wouldn't have lasted long in this line of work. This man has no weaknesses, except I heard he has a daughter. He dotes on her like she's the apple of his eye, protecting her meticulously since childhood. No one outside his inner circle has ever seen her. The so-called apple of his eye nervously took a sip of soup and burned her tongue, sticking it out in pain. Did it burn you, sweetie? Linda had been watching me closely and quickly offered help when she saw what happened. Quick, drink some cold water. I had intended to hold out a little longer to teach her a lesson, but the searing pain on my tongue was unbearable, so I eventually took the glass of water. Oh well, I thought, softening as I glanced at her pitiful, puppy dog eyes. After all, with me around from now on, that Rita won't be able to cause any trouble. I never expected Rita to be foolish enough to try to drag me onto her side. The next day at lunch, Rita uninvitedly sat down beside Linda and me. I happened to have a piece of spare rib in my mouth, and while I was busy spitting out the bone, I missed the chance to say, "Get lost," in time. "Sweetie, I think there might be some misunderstanding between us. Can we talk alone?" She looked sincere and then turned her gaze to Linda, having learned from yesterday's lesson. Linda didn't dare to obey her every command this time. Chewing on a half-eaten piece of vegetable, she looked at me pleadingly. "Eat this too, no picky eating." I picked out all my carrots and placed them on her side, then stood up and motioned to Rita with a tilt of my chin, "Let's talk over there." "But darling, you don't like carrots either," came Linda's quiet protest from behind. I walked away quickly, pretending not to hear. Rita and I sat facing each other at a table in the corner. "Linda is hard to get along with, isn't she?" That was her opening line, and I frowned at her in slight surprise. Then I realized it was my attitude towards Linda just now that she had misinterpreted. I decided to stay put and see what she was up to. Seeing that I remained silent, Rita probably thought she had hit the mark, and her smile grew even sweeter. "You stood up for her in public yesterday, so I knew you must have been fooled by her appearance too." I listened quietly, my gaze sweeping over Linda eating alone. She was staring at that pile of carrots with deep resentment, hesitantly picking up a piece with her chopsticks and stuffing it into her mouth. Her entire face scrunched up the next second. "This idiot, so obedient it's despairing. If it were me, I would have secretly dumped that pile of carrots long ago." "You've just returned to the Lincoln family, so you might not know Linda very well yet." Rita's nonsense wasn't even finished. "Her scheming runs deeper than it seems. Before, she deliberately sowed discord among classmates, and after being caught, no one wanted anything to do with her. I only became her friend because I felt sorry for her being all alone. But she turned around and tried to steal my boyfriend, always copying my style to do so. Just ask anyone. They'll all tell you the same." I stared at her earnest face. Yet my mind flashed back to Linda's beaming expression when she showed me her hairpins and bow tie. Rita is really kind. When I was being bullied before, she was the first to stand up and protect me. When everyone else ignored me, she was the only one who still treated me as her best friend. The truth is that Rita deliberately tarnished Linda's reputation in front of others, only to step forward and play the savior after Linda was isolated. She even gave me gifts. "Look, this hairpin and this bow tie, they were all from her. She wears the same ones, saying we should be best friends forever." The matching gifts from her best friend ultimately became evidence used to smear her. Not far away, Linda was still foolishly eating the carrots she hated the most. Bite by bite, I withdrew my gaze, lowered my eyes, and tapped the desk lightly with my fingers, one after another. "Having someone like that steal over a decade of your life, don't you want to teach her a lesson?" Rita's sweet voice was laced with temptation, coaxing and persuasive. It had to be admitted that she was a master at weaving stories, each part seamlessly connected, logical and well-founded. With her sweet and adorable face that occasionally showed a hint of timidity, it was all too easy for her to make people believe her. But I already said, "Linda is my sister." I looked up and smiled at her. Rita probably thought she had succeeded again and immediately flashed a bright smile in return. "Get lost." I met her smiling face and softly uttered a single word. Rita's smile froze awkwardly on her face. What? Don't understand human language." My smile faded bit by bit. "Get lost. Stay away from Linda. If you dare to mess with her again, next time won't be just a simple warning." Out of the corner of my eye, Linda had already finished eating, not a single carrot left on her plate, sitting there obediently, waiting for me. I left the table and walked toward her. After taking a few steps, I turned back the way I came, and, "Keep an eye on your dog. Don't assume everyone would be interested in that kind of trash." My gut told me the boyfriend Rita mentioned was the boy sitting behind her. What a pity, with such a handsome face, yet he's blind. I turned and walked away, unaware that in another corner, that handsome blind man was staring intently at me. "Bro Lou, did she just insult you?" The guy across from him took off his headphones, his face full of disbelief and confusion. "I'm not deaf." Lou Fan shot him a warning glance. "Then why are you laughing?" The other person shrank back, ultimately not daring to voice this sarcastic remark. "That Rita is no good. Stay away from her." "Got it," I repeatedly warned Linda, mixing threats with admonitions. Linda didn't understand why, but Linda obeyed. She kept her distance from Rita for several days in a row, and when she couldn't shake her off, she would come running to me. I praised her and, in turn, protected her even more tightly. Rita couldn't find any openings to exploit, so she quieted down for a while, but her revenge came swiftly, and was far more vile than I had imagined. I had thought it would be nothing more than petty tricks like locking someone in the bathroom or cornering them with a gang of followers, or even something slightly more extreme would have been within my tolerance. As long as she faced me directly and used her own skills to outwit me, even if I was outmatched, I would have accepted defeat gracefully, but she played dirty and called some thugs to block me and Linda, not those worthless punks from school, but real social scum, vermin who lurk in the gutters and peek under girls' skirts. Linda shielded me firmly behind her. I gave those hoodlums a cold, sweeping glance. Helplessly, I glanced at Linda, who was trembling before me with a look of grim determination. With one hand reaching for the folding knife in my pocket, I used the other to pull down my mask. I knew Dad's bodyguards were nearby, and if a fight broke out, I probably wouldn't even get a chance to step in, but God knows I'm itching for action. Playing the good girl these days has nearly given me menstrual irregularities. Young mistress, the leading thug froze for a moment when I took off my mask, his voice trembling as he spoke. Thank heavens at least one of you has eyes. I also paused briefly before offering a gentle smile. Can't deny I'm a bit disappointed it didn't come to blows. Young mistress, Linda repeated after them, turning to look at me like a startled rabbit. He knows you. I shrugged in silent agreement. Even if I were kidnapped, I'd get adopted by a mafia boss, born with a silver spoon, never tasting hardship. What can I say? Linda was still reeling from the shock when the little thug's legs nearly gave out beneath him. Why, young mistress, we're so sorry. We had no idea it was you. His voice was even trembling on the verge of tears. That Rita paid us to teach two women a lesson. We really didn't know it was you. I remember the old man had a rule, no harming innocent civilians, especially women and children. I cut him off, flicking out the knife. The cold gleam of the blade lazily lifted his chin. The sharp blade was mere inches from his throat. He trembled violently, not daring to resist in the slightest. Don't be afraid, I kindly reassured him. It's not some 3-stab 6-hole ordeal, just chopping off a hand according to the rules. His legs gave way completely, and he collapsed to his knees. The leader's legs went weak, and the bunch of nobodies behind him immediately dropped to their knees in unison. Spare us, young mistress, save us. He clutched at my pant leg, begging for mercy. If the boss finds out, we're done for. Breaking the rules, and of all people, they had to pick on me. No need to think twice. Their fate would be far worse than what I just described. Baby, what's going on? The situation turned upside down in an instant, and Linda nervously tugged at my sleeve. Anyone with half a brain could guess my identity was tied to the gray areas, yet Linda still instinctively trusted me. Don't be afraid. I softened my tone and patted her head reassuringly. The show is about to begin. I told those guys not to alert the enemy. Just pretend the job is done and lure Rita out by asking for payment. Rita never expected these thugs to turn against her, so she was easily lured out. I followed behind them, using the corner as cover to record clear video evidence. In the video, under the deliberate flattery and guidance of the thugs, Rita was no longer her usual gentle and sweet self. These two bitches deserved to be taught a lesson long ago. She sneered with her chin raised, especially Linda, that little bastard from who knows where. How dare she try to seduce the person I like? We already taught her a lesson before, making everyone isolate her, yet she still hasn't learned her lesson. Let's see if she dares to get close to Frank this time. Her words grew increasingly vile with each sentence. It was hard to imagine such filth could come from the mouth of a 17-year-old girl. Suppressing my anger, I carefully preserved all the evidence and calmly returned home. Linda followed behind me, unusually silent the whole way. Finally saw your good friend's true colors. How does it feel? I asked her bluntly. Linda actually didn't cry. The forced smile she managed was especially ugly. Would have been better if she just cried. Why? She murmured softly. I truly considered her my best friend, and I never tried to seduce her boyfriend. The only interaction I had with Lou Fan was when I helped him switch duty days, and he said thank you. That's all there was. Frustrated by her naivety, I flicked her forehead hard. Linda covered her forehead, her eyes red with grievance, unsure whether it was from Rita's provocation or the pain from my hit. Be more discerning when making friends in the future, I said through gritted teeth. If you can't tell, bring them to me for a look, so I won't have to clean up the mess later. that night, the person who truly had to clean up the mess called me. I stared at the words, "old man," on the screen, wrestling with myself for a long time before finally pressing the answer button with a sense of resignation. "Dad." I forced a smile. "You still remember I'm your father." Dad's booming roar pierced through the screen straight into my eardrums. "Bob told me everything. What the hell happened?" Damn, I forgot about Uncle Bob, my ever-present but never-seen bodyguard. He must have told Dad everything that happened today. "Is Uncle Bob my bodyguard or your spy?" I protested unhappily. "I could have handled such a small matter myself." "Handle my ass," Dad roared even more earth-shatteringly. "If he hadn't told me, I wouldn't have known you were out there almost forgetting about your old man." "How could that be, Dad? You know I love you the most," I declared righteously. "Get out, get out." Dad couldn't stand such mushy talk and immediately changed the subject. "What's really going on? I always knew that old bastard from the Chen family could only raise a little bastard. Can you handle it yourself? Or should I just wipe out their whole family?" "No need, no need." I quickly stopped him. "Just relax, Dad. If I can't handle such a small matter, would I even be your daughter? Good that you know it." The previously loud-mouthed old man instantly softened his tone, letting out a snort. "That old fart from the Lincoln family can't compare to me. Have your fun and hurry back. Barrett is still waiting to get engaged to you." "Hello, the signal's bad. Bye, Dad." I swiftly hung up the phone. Just hearing the name Barrett Smith gives me a headache. I grew up with him since childhood, the difference being that I was picked up by my old man, while he was the genuine young heir of the Underworld. When he was little and didn't know any better, he chased after me shouting, "Stray child that nobody wants." I immediately pinned him to the ground and gave him a good beating. Later, when my old man got wind of it, he was so furious that he stormed straight to the Smith family to demand an explanation. But in the end, nothing was done, because when he barged into the Smith family's old house with a menacing aura, Barrett Smith was being chased around the yard by his father, getting a thorough beating. Uncle Song's belt was whipping through the air with fierce momentum. "I'll teach you to run your mouth, you little brat. I swear I'll beat you to death today." In the end, it was my old man who couldn't stand it anymore and rushed over to shield Barrett Smith, saving his young life. But Uncle Song's beating was truly severe. 6-year-old Barrett Smith had to lie on his stomach in bed for a full month. From then on, we developed an irreconcilable enmity, fighting whenever we met. Barrett Smith still had a sharp tongue, wasting the painstaking effort his father put into giving him such a cultured name. However, he never joked about my background again. But I digress. In short, Barrett Smith and I were fundamentally incompatible, sworn enemies for life, and marriage was absolutely out of the question. Rita had meticulously calculated the timing to have thugs block us. Immediately following that was the banquet hosted by the Lincoln family, where Mr. Lincoln was to publicly announce my identity. Since we were classmates, Rita's family also received an invitation. If her plan had succeeded, both Linda and I would have been unable to attend the banquet. She could easily stay out of the matter, visiting under the pretense of caring for a classmate, and then naturally embellish and spread the word about our tragic plight. By then, not only would Linda and I be ruined by her, but the stock price of the Lincoln family would inevitably suffer as well. The Chen family has always been adept at taking advantage of others' misfortunes. This scheme is nothing short of brilliantly calculated. She could calculate everything under the sun, but she could never have predicted that all these years I spent wandering outside with my father had taught me the treachery of human hearts. The banquet proceeded as scheduled. Rita, brimming with confidence, made a grand entrance in her finest attire. Then, upon seeing Linda and me unharmed, each holding Mr. Lincoln's arm on either side, she was so shocked and furious that the champagne glass in her hand shattered into pieces. The soothing music was suddenly interrupted by such a harsh sound, drawing everyone's attention toward her. "What's wrong, Rita? Are you okay?" a classmate who was also attending the banquet asked with concern. "And no, it's nothing. I was just being careless." Rita gritted her teeth and could only force a strained smile, barely concealing her embarrassment. I stood under the spotlight, while she, backlit, couldn't clearly see my face. Yet I could take in every detail of her contorted expression. "Hold on tight, Rita." I smiled at her. "Your big moment is yet to come. After all, it's a family reunion dinner, so I invited Dad." But Dad was probably too angry with this ungrateful child of his, as he didn't show up even half an hour into the dinner. Dad didn't come in person, but he sent Barrett Smith instead. Rita, who the hell is Rita? Barrett Smith, dressed to the nines, was shouting impatiently in the middle of the dance floor. "Damn, Who's that guy? So hot. Is he a celebrity invited by the Lincoln family? Does anyone know him? I want to make him famous. Is he looking for Rita? Could it be a confession? Rita is so lucky. She already has Frank, and now another handsome guy is confessing to her. The girls' whispers spread, and many envious and jealous glances were directed at Rita. Even Linda gasped in surprise and nudged my shoulder, saying, "Sweetie, look, a hottie. Where exactly is he handsome?" I find Barrett Smith utterly annoying, and this comment leaves me baffled. "You like him? Don't talk nonsense." Linda's ears turn red as she moves to cover my mouth. Over there, Rita, who had been fuming just moments ago, suddenly blushes and walks with small, restrained yet barely concealed delighted steps toward the center of the crowd. Only the champagne splashed on the hem of her dress looks slightly ridiculous. "Hello, is there something you need?" She lifted the hem of her skirt, speaking in a delicate voice. It was at least 10 times sweeter than her original voice. "So you're the one called Rita." Barrett Smith gave her a quick glance. "I know that look all too well. Back when we were kids practicing shooting together. He had that exact look while holding a Beretta, hitting bullseyes one after another." Target locked. The next move is a lethal strike. Rita nodded with a bashful shyness, so Barrett Smith, having locked onto his target, nodded in satisfaction as well. "Go on, apologize to baby Smith. I already have someone I like." Rita instinctively wanted to reject the confession she had imagined, only realizing halfway through that something was off. "What did you say?" She looked at Barrett Smith in disbelief. "I won't say it twice." Barrett Smith dropped his usual joking demeanor, his face turning cold as he tilted his chin in my direction. Rita's face flushed red again, though this time clearly from embarrassment and humiliation. Everyone had heard their conversation, and those envious glances quickly turned to suspicion. Rita, accustomed to being the center of attention, had never suffered such indignity before. She bit her lip and glared at me resentfully, hesitating to move. "I didn't do anything wrong. Why should I apologize?" "Wow, lady, you hired thugs to block someone and still claim you did nothing wrong," Barrett Smith blurted out without thinking. "Then what would count as doing wrong?" "Murder and arson." As soon as these words were spoken, an uproar ensued. The parents of the Lincoln family, who had just learned what Linda and I had nearly gone through, turned pale. "What's going on here? What have you done to my 2 daughters?" Without even confirming with me and Linda whether it was true, they immediately raised their voices and harshly questioned the Chen family. All the guests present were distinguished individuals invited to the event, who would normally never breach etiquette, yet now they were all looking at the Chen family with expressions of shock and disgust. Mr. Chen, a middle-aged man with a beer belly and a receding hairline, turned red in the face and repeatedly waved his hands, insisting it was all a misunderstanding. Unfortunately, no one believed him. Rita was furious and screamed at Barrett Smith, "You're slandering me. What evidence do you have?" Barrett Smith was speechless. He had only heard the whole story from his father, but as for evidence, he really didn't have any. He looked past Rita and fixed his gaze on me. "I'm speechless. That reckless fool. He might as well not have come. He's completely ruined the plan. I have the evidence." At this point, I had no choice but to release that video ahead of schedule. The video captured everything clearly, with Rita's ferocious face and malicious voice vividly displayed before everyone. "Bitch, she deserved it. Who told her to seduce my boyfriend? Since she loves seducing men so much, let her have her fill this time. That baby Smith deserves to die even more. She had the gall to protect that bitch when given face. She should taste what it's like to be violated too." Rita frantically lunged at me to snatch my phone. "No, it's not like that. Stop playing it." Her face was deathly pale as she weakly denied it over and over. "The evidence is irrefutable. Turning off the video now won't change anything. This is terrifying." How utterly malicious. She used to complain to me about Linda always bullying her. What an act. Could someone like Linda really bully her? Thinking back, when she said Linda was sowing discord, it was just her side of the story. She told me the same thing. What a liar. Seems like Linda seducing her boyfriend might not be true either. The classmates present immediately began whispering, with many bringing up Rita's past attempts to smear Linda's reputation. Once the timelines were compared, everyone realized Rita had been lying. Public opinion shifted overwhelmingly in an instant, left isolated and helpless. Rita finally remembered her so-called boyfriend, and cast a pleading glance at the silent Frank. "Frank, say something. It was Linda who seduced you first, right?" "I'm not lying." Standing by the dance floor, Frank watched the drama unfold with a smile. "First of all, I never said you were my girlfriend. Second, there's nothing between me and Linda. This bombshell was truly shocking. Even I was taken aback for a moment. Rita's face was streaked with tears, her mascara smudged into a chaotic mess, making her look like a vengeful ghost. You clearly gave me milk tea. And even the watch you always wear, you gave it to me. The banquet had turned into a grand spectacle of gossip, with everyone holding their breath in unison, waiting for Frank's response. Frank narrowed his eyes and carefully pondered for a moment. The milk tea was a small gift for the winter solstice. Everyone in the class got one. You weren't there at the time, so I just left it on your desk. I think with the watch. The desks were too close together, and I must have misplaced it. I spent a long time looking for it. Since you have it, please return it to me as soon as possible. Each sentence was more painful than the last. Someone in the audience couldn't help but laugh out loud. After this incident, Rita was thoroughly disgraced and ran out of the banquet in tears, covering her face. Everyone was talking about her outrageous behavior, but my gaze traveled over the crowd and fixed firmly on Frank, as if sensing it. He looked back against the light and raised his glass to me. I lifted my skirt and turned away, pretending not to see. Rita is bad but not that stupid. I don't think everything Frank said was true, whether it's to curry favor with the Lincoln family or to kick Rita while she's down out of dislike. As the saying goes, not everyone would stoop to such low standards. The banquet concluded successfully, and just as we returned home, a chaotic and urgent knocking suddenly erupted outside the mansion. It seems like a lot of people. Could it be the Chen family coming for us? Mr. Lincoln listened for a moment, his face grave as he ushered us toward the basement, but the very next second, a voice from outside the front door abruptly halted my steps. Baby Smith, you ungrateful, unfilial brat, found your real dad and forgot your stepdad. Get your ass out here now. Dad's unmistakably deep and resonant voice nearly shattered my eardrums. Who is it? Linda grabbed my hand in panic. Someone coming for revenge. Misunderstanding. Just a misunderstanding. I forced a laugh to calm them down, then turned to open the door. Outside stood a line of black Hummers, with Dad standing stone-faced at the front. Anyone unaware would genuinely think enemies had come knocking. Keith Smith, Mr. Lincoln, who had followed me out worriedly, froze for a moment before flying into a rage. What the hell are you doing at my doorstep in the middle of the night? Don't think I won't call the cops on you. Go ahead. Arrest the man who raised your own daughter for 17 years. See if you can sleep at night then. Dad roared back with full vigor. This, Mr. Lincoln was stunned, looking at me in confusion. Honey, who is? We're all family here. Let's talk this out calmly. I broke into a nervous sweat as I tried to mediate between them. Dad, this is my father. Father, this is my dad. The more introductions there are, the weirder it seems. Truly making up for what's missing. Barrett Smith, who was following my dad, added fuel to the fire without concern for the situation. Baby Smith, now you have two dads. Aren't you happy? I'm happy my ass. I was itching to throw hands with him right then and there. But my previously furious father just waved his hand dismissively. Forget it. Considering you're my daughter's father, I won't set my sights on your family's business anymore. All these are gifts for my daughter. Your modest household better not mistreat my girl anymore. He waved his hand, and one by one, black-clad bodyguards, seemingly copied and pasted, jumped down from the Humvees. They opened the trunks, took out the items, and began transporting them into the mansion. Mr. Lincoln, being a cultured man, had never seen such a crude display. He was stunned for a while before snapping back to reality and starting to curse again. Who do you think you're looking down on? My own daughter. Do you think I'd let her suffer? Who knows? Dad retorted matter-of-factly, glancing at Linda, who had somehow ended up behind me. Look at this girl who's been with your family for over a decade, raised to be this frail and delicate. That's just our Linda's style. This is called being a lady. Lady my foot. Cut the nonsense and step aside. Don't block me from moving the goods, my old man said as he hoisted a box onto his shoulder and strode inside with Herculean vigor. He paused briefly as he passed by Linda. I distinctly felt Linda nervously shrink behind me, clutching tightly at the hem of my shirt. Since you and my daughter are like sisters, from now on you're my daughter too. The old man freed up one hand to pat his chest. I'll bring you some nutritional supplements tomorrow to help you recover. Look how thin you've gotten. What a tragedy. With that, he let out a heavy sigh and dashed inside carrying the box in a flash. Mr. Lincoln was left dumbfounded by his anger and chased after him, arguing all the way. Just a false alarm. Mrs. Lincoln, who had seen the world, smiled gently. let's go, everyone should go home and rest. I responded by leading Linda back, but after just a few steps, I heard footsteps following closely behind. Why are you following us? Go back to your own home. I turned around and snapped at Barrett Smith, who had followed us in. We're all family, let's talk this out nicely. He shamelessly followed along, his handsome face grinning like a rogue. I narrowed my eyes suspiciously at him. Something about him just didn't sit right with me. I'm warning you, stay away from our Linda. Honey, what are you talking about? Linda's face turned so red it looked like steam might rise from it as she desperately tugged at my clothes. I could tell from the start that Barrett Smith couldn't take his eyes off Linda ever since he accidentally spotted her at the dinner party. At best, he only came to the dinner because his father asked him to show up and support me. Who'd believe he'd actually volunteer to follow his dad here just to bring me something, if he didn't poison my food? I'd consider it an act of Buddha-like mercy. So what? Barrett Smith rubbed his nose, his ears turning red, but he still stubbornly insisted. Linda hasn't said anything about it yet. Who are you to tell me what to do? Linda listens to me the most, so you'd better show me some respect. I shielded Linda behind me and rolled my eyes at him. Don't be like. Barrett Smith softened his tone. I wanted to invite Linda to the movies tomorrow, he said, sneaking a glance at Linda. Linda didn't respond, pressing her lips together as she looked at me, her eyes full of anticipation, like a child eagerly waiting for candy. I opened my mouth, but before I could voice my opinion, Dad's booming roar and Mr. Lincoln's heated argument suddenly erupted from inside the house. Your house is way too small. There's no room for even a few boxes of stuff. A few boxes. You're practically moving the entire department store into my home, seriously. With both the elderly and children to take care of, my life is just. After hearing the story above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Looking forward to hearing from you. If you like this story, don't forget to like it, share it, and subscribe to my channel. See you next time.